Okay, I figured out my key to success, now I'm locked in. I learned how to open doors like a locksmith. I'm uptown, I'm the one they wanna shop with. Run off with the bag even though we don't shoplift. All that gun talk y'all want, I'm not with. It's not cool, everybody got them long clips. You gon' mess around and get one of your dogs hit. And when you do, I hope you know you're not John Wick.
Welcome back. You're now locked in with DK and Atwood. I'm Atwood. Killer to my left, DK.
Left the timer on yet again.
That's fine. It's all good.
Man.
DK he's always doing rounds in here in the morning before.
Yeah, it's about to beep again.
And there we go. Then you guys only doing 10-minute rest or 10-second rest?
15 seconds.
Oh, 15. Anyways, today we want to talk about something that we haven't really talked about yet. We talk a lot about pro fighters, and we have them on. You know, we had Joe Selecki on last pod.
Yeah.
But we haven't really talked a whole lot about amateurs and I guess the grind of an amateur. And we hope to have one of the amateur fighters here on soon. So we felt like this would be a pretty good
segue
intro. Yeah. Into that. Now, obviously me, I don't have any amateur fighting experience.
But you've reffed some.
I've reffed. Yeah, I've reffed amateurs and stuff like that, and I've had my share of ass kickings on the street. But
getting your ass whipped for free ain't fun.
No, not at all.
Or I mean, just in general, like amateurs, they pretty much have to pay, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're like very well known in the area and you can pump some tickets. You get those tickets out and you can sell some tickets, and maybe promoters will give you $5 a ticket usually as an amateur. Sometimes, you can hook it up to where you're getting 20%.
Really? As an amateur?
I've never heard of that, but
is that?
I actually have heard of that. It is illegal to pay them.
Oh, okay.
It's illegal to pay them, but they can make money off ticket sales.
Gotcha.
So, and that's most states that I know of. I know, I didn't spend, when I was an amateur, I didn't know anything about anything, right? Like, and that was getting started in 2006. It was a little bit, my coach that I had fought in Japan. He didn't know anything about promotions in America. And so he was like, yeah, find a fight. And so I started, reaching out to this promoter in town or whatever, like, hey, I want to fight. But it was by phone number. He called the phone number on the poster. The phone number on the poster. And I talked to this guy. His first name was Kelly, and I talked to him on the phone, and I'm like, hey, yeah, this is where I'm at. This is where I train at. I've been training for this long. He said, cool. We got a fight for you. Like right then and there, he's going to get me a fight. Like, sweet, but there was this little caveat. I didn't have approval through the Air Force to fight yet. So I had to say, well, wait a minute. I have to get approval through the Air Force that I can fight, but go ahead and keep my name in there, and I'll let you know as soon as I get, I say a fight, I can fight, So it was like 2 weeks out from the fight. I get approved, I'm like, I'm in, puts me in on this card, and I'm fighting some dude, and when I started fighting as an amateur, I was treating it as I was already a pro. Alaska was a little bit different. I actually got paid. It was $150 to fight, $150 to win, but I didn't know anything about ticket sales. I sold tables. I sold a ton of tickets because I was like the first and only Air Force guy to ever fight from up there. Like I got everybody. Nobody was allowed to. I think I talked about this on the previous. Nobody was allowed to fight. Because it was kind of like it was no holds barred back then. Like it was very. You didn't have to do medicals. You didn't do blood work. You didn't do eye exam. You did a little.
You showed up.
You showed up, and if you were within this certain weight, you fought each other. And so the guy I fought, I think I weighed in at 183 pounds my first fight. The other guy, he weighed in at like 187. They're like, hey, you guys are close enough. You're going to fight. And so I fought this guy, and the first fight as an amateur is the easiest.
Okay. That's interesting.
Mentally. Because you don't know it
mentally.
You don't know what to expect. Right?
I thought that might be why it's like the hardest.
No. What's the hardest is when you're in there and the fight starts and you're like, oh shit, these people outside of this cage are screaming and yelling, wanting me to hurt this person. And they're also screaming and yelling, wanting that other person to hurt me, and cheering when something bad happens. Like, that's kind of like a shock sometimes. Like, my first fight, there was people right up, like, cage side was, like, people could put their fingers through the cage. Like, they were literally cage side my first fight. And they were drinking alcohol. So the smell of alcohol while you're just smashing this dude's face in, or he's smashing your face in, and you're trying to, and you're completely exhausted, and you're hearing people, beat his fucking ass.
Typical.
And it's just like everybody's cheering and yelling, and it's just like, it's unlike anything that you've ever experienced in your life. Just the adrenaline rush going on, and you got these people screaming and yelling, beers going, and you're inside of a cage, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's wild. So that's your first, I remember getting ready to walk out my first amateur fight, and it's me and the guy I'm fighting. We're standing right beside each other. I had just got my blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and guess what I'm doing? I'm wearing my freaking gi, man.
You thought you was a Gracie.
Dude, I thought I was bad as motherfucker, because blue belt back then was kind of like a big deal.
Yeah.
I remember I told somebody, was like, dude, you're a blue belt? Because it's like purple belt was around the highest, you usually see places.
Yeah.
So anyways, dude's like, you're a blue belt? I'm like, yeah, I'm a blue belt, no big deal. And so I walk out with my gi on, and I was the co-main event. And man, my first sergeant was there, master sergeant was there. A lot of people were there watching me. I had sold table seats. Didn't make any money off the table seats made, but I got $300 for the fight, for the win, $150 to fight, $150 to win. And then I got another $200 bonus for fight of the night. And then I got another $250 for fighter of the night. So my first fight, I was spoiled right off the rip. But it taught me, like, you have an exciting fight, you're going to get paid for it.
Yeah.
Or people are going to like you and enjoy you, Fought my next fight. I won that one, got like submission of the night or something like that, or fighter of the night. Dude, I was like racking up fighter of the night and stuff. Anyways, but South Carolina and the lower 48 where mixed martial arts is sanctioned, it's completely different. Like we got guys fighting this weekend in North Carolina. It's day of weigh-ins. What promotion is that? Is that Fight for It? Yeah. So you get there's several amateur shows that's well, it's just amateur rules for us to state. Just be, you gotta weigh in day of. And now they weigh in at 10 a.m., but, and they won't fight, but it limits how much you can cut weight, which is good. Yeah. Which is good, like Corey's not cutting a lot of weight. Cooper's not cutting a lot of weight. So we got one kickboxer, one MMA fighter. And so it's like, they're not cutting a ton of weight, so it's okay. And that's what Josh, one of our amateur fighters, he's fought at 45 and I think 40 in North Carolina because it's day of. But in South Carolina, he fights at 35. Oh, snap. Okay. He fights at 35. And, speaking of Josh, he's, at 35, he's ranked. He's number 2 in the Southeast, out of over 500 fighters. Number 1 in South Carolina, number 1 in North Carolina at 35 as well.
Who's number 1 in Southeast?
Some kid, I think he's from Connecticut, actually, but he's fought in Florida. I can't I don't know his name, but he's 7-0. Josh is 7-1 with 5 finishes, I think, 6 finishes, 1 decision win.
That's the fight to make, man.
Yeah, it is, man. It is. So, yeah, with Josh being an amateur, you know, he's young, man. He just turned 22 in January.
Yeah, right. Like the day after he won, right?
Yeah, there was it was right within, you know, one of his fights.
Yeah.
And in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Fought in Atlanta. So the kid's been fighting like crazy this year.
Yeah, he's had what, like 3 already?
I want to say he fought in January, and then he fought in
April,
February, and then April.
Yeah, 3 already.
Maybe 4 this year, man. I can look him up. But anyways, he's just been on a roll, man.
Yeah.
And so it's really fun to see, and it's good that he listens as well. He's not just amateur. Like, yeah, he's 7-1. He's one of the best. He's in the Southeast, right? You know, literally in the Southeast, and he's humble kid. You know, blue belt in jiu-jitsu. You know, has been working on his jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, he's in here a lot.
Most of his fights by submission. 71% of his fights by submission.
Yeah.
You know, if you start looking at stats and stuff. But he's just as dangerous on his feet. And that's the way you want to be as a fighter. You know, you need to focus a lot of jiu-jitsu, a lot of striking. You know, you shouldn't rush it too much. Like at the beginning with Josh, you know, he wanted to fight. I was like, oh man, we'll get you. You know, we got him like 1 or 2 fights a year. You know, just he was 18 when he first fought. You know,
Yeah.
so 1 or 2 fights, and now we're on a roll, man. And so we win a couple more. Look to go pro. Pro is no rush, you know, and that's the thing I think a lot of amateurs do. They're tired of fighting for free. But if you play it, you're right, man. You can get sponsorships.
Yeah.
You can
In management.
Yeah. You can get, you can sell tickets and promote yourself. So that way, whenever you hit pro, man, like you're already on the thing, ready to do. I didn't start selling tickets till I was 6-2, and I get fight for Bellator, and they want you to sell tickets. Like you're like, oh no, yeah, they want you to sell tickets, so you pay for your purse.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So the more tickets you sell, the more money you're going to make.
Yep.
Right. Whether you get the percentage of the ticket sales, and that was like with Bellator, I got like 20% of ticket sales of what I sold. So it's like, and that was the norm going. I was like, oh, this is the way people do it. Like they make money off of their ticket sales. So I'd hustle 100 tickets out, or I'd try to, and you get 20% of that, man. That's so
do you think that like promotions, I mean, obviously we're not talking about UFC or like PFL. Do you think they still do it like that these days?
No, UFC, PFL, yeah.
Obviously they don't, right? But
yeah, but I don't know about
like LFA or
I'm pretty sure that's the way they do it because
Really?
they don't pay shit either, man.
Oh, I didn't think so, but
I've had
I wouldn't know.
I think I've had 2 fighters in LFA, and this is before they sold it. They sold it at one. Mick Maynard used to be the owner of that. Mick Maynard's
really?
He's now a matchmaker for
UFC.
For UFC. Yeah. So I had a guy fight for when Mick was in charge, but they sold it. I don't know who. So
right on.
I don't know who owns that?
Josh. So for those who don't know, Josh, like you said, in South Carolina, he's been fighting at 135. I don't know how tall he is. He's pretty tall for that weight class.
Looks tall, yeah. He's got to be like 5'10", 5'11".
Hopefully he's 5'11", because that would mean I'm 5'10". But, depends on what shoes I'm wearing, I guess. But yeah, he's tall and lengthy, man, which I imagine can only help.
He's got a very similar, I guess, body figure as Sugar.
Mm-hmm. Maybe even like a Dominic Cruz, too. I don't know how tall Dominic is in real life, but
if you look at So there's an older fighter in the UFC. His name's Carlos Condit.
Yes.
WEC champ, 170-pound champ. The way his stance is and the way he does his Muay Thai is very, very similar to Josh's stance and the way he does his kickboxing.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Josh is smaller, so, you know, he's a little bit quicker. But the way their stances are and a lot of things, they're very similar with those styles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with Carlos Condit. And Carlos Condit was a
Dude was a fucking murderer, dude.
killer.
I remember watching him fight George St. Pierre. And this was back, I think, maybe right around the time people started calling like George the GOAT, you know? But I picked Carlos to win that fight. It was a close fight. I mean, he lost, but
yeah,
it was a bloody fight, too. What was Carlos' nickname? I cannot think of it to save my life.
natural born killer.
That's it. I knew it was something kind of like,
Yeah,
I don't want to call it cheesy, but a little cheesy.
natural born killer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a movie.
Because I just remember like hearing Bruce Buffer say it. I was like, damn, when is this nickname going to end? You know, it's pretty long.
Natural born killer.
But yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, I'm
I
just
didn't
trying
even,
to come up with Josh a nickname, man. You know?
Yeah, he doesn't have one, does he?
Yeah, Skylar. I think I got Skylar's.
What's hers?
Well, she always wears these Reaper shorts.
She does have the
And
Sith.
she's got the
What is that called? Scythe? Scythe?
Scythe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
Something like that. Sickle
sickle thing
on her
But-
face, yeah.
Yeah, on her freaking face.
Yeah,
man.
right above her eye. Listen, Skylar looks super nice person, but looks intimidating as fuck, dude. Got the spider
Like-
webs tattooed on her
on her
on her jawbone,
right
and
here.
yeah, like it's she's
wild.
super intimidating looking.
Yeah, it is.
Got like an AK-47 across her stomach.
AK-47 on her stomach, bro. Come on, dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, who hasn't, like, they were talking about, like, so she fought a couple weeks ago, a week and a half ago, roughly, April 27th. And, you know, she was touted to lose.
Oh, really?
A fight, yeah. Like, so she was fighting a girl that was 1-0. You know, and as amateurs, you don't have a whole lot of footage out there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's another thing is like when I fought, there was nothing, no
Yeah.
footage, no social media to find up what these people are doing. What do they act like, you know? So, fortunately, I feel like this, right? When you have no fights, it's easiest because nobody can get footage on you unless you putting out your training footage. Nobody knows a whole lot about you. So, with Skylar, we looked up her opponent, found out she was a wrestler, college wrestler.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because promoters are just going to tell you she's a good grappler. She's a good grappler. She's blue belt in jiu-jitsu, won like Charlotte Open. Really good. And collegiate wrestler as well. And, you know, so we looked her up on it, found her on Instagram, looked up her, kind of like saw one of her videos, and she immediately doesn't try to strike, immediately goes for a takedown.
And that's exactly what she did.
That's what she did. And so for 2.5 months, all we had was one little clip of her doing this because she went to Gamma. So she's an international bronze medalist. So she went to, you know, the world MMA fights, wherever. I think she had 1 or 2 MMA fights in there. Anyways, we got a bronze medal out of that. But her first fight, took the girl down, got knee on belly, and boom, 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 just beat her up. And I was like, all right, so she's going to immediately not try to strike. She's just going to try to take it down.
Yeah.
So we worked that for 2.5 months, man, and, you know, it looked really good. And so they were talking about, like, Skylar doing something in the fight. It was like, oh, man, if you got an AK-47, you can do that. Tattooed on your belly, you can do that.
Well, there was a point in that fight where the girl got Skylar down, had her in mount.
And had her back.
Yeah, and had her back. And, you know, obviously whenever you see somebody, especially like I would imagine anyway, it's their first fight and they get mounted by a collegiate wrestler, you know, from the fan, not somebody like you that trains with Skylar, right, in center corner, but the fan watching it is just like, oh, shit. You know, like she's in a lot of trouble. But, I mean, she took some shots, but she got out of it. You know, like that's one thing about Skylar too, and you saw it in that fight. But if you train with her and you're here, you see it here too. Like that chick has heart, man.
Yeah, she has heart. She has a lot of will, a lot of puts forth a lot of effort.
She did not give up, and then
she doesn't give up, and
ended up winning by, was it split decision?
Or was unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay.
Yeah. And because we talked about the scoring.
Yeah.
Right. So that girl might have took her down.
You got to do damage.
And
she only did damage the one time, and not to mention all the times that Skylar stuffed the takedown.
Yep. And so that's Skylar stuffing takedowns, blasting knees.
Yep.
Throwing knees.
Yep.
Punching.
And she definitely outstruck her on the feet too.
I mean the first little exchange.
Yeah.
She wobbled her, bloodied her nose.
Yep.
Right on first chain, and then she's like, "Oh shit, I ain't take this girl down."
Yep.
Got her down, got mount, threw a couple punches, got her back, threw barely little pop shots, right?
Yeah.
But just try to maintain her back.
Yeah.
Skylar gets out. Bing, 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 bing. Starts piecing her up again. You know, that girl tries to close the distance, try to take her down. We stuff, frame, knee, punch, punch, punch. She might. So people say, man, I think Skylar lost that fight. Like somebody close to us, you know, told me that. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, man, but they don't score. I knew going at the end of, I'm like, I'm going to record this fight because I think we won because of our conversation and you explaining the rules of how striking weighs so heavily on the scorecards.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
it's priority.
It's priority. Striking is priority on the scorecard. So it's like, it's not wrestling. It's not getting the takedown and doing nothing. Like, it's literally, if you get a takedown and you lay on top of somebody, it's just a jiu-jitsu match at that point in time. You have to throw punches. It's a fight to throw punches. It's not a grappling match. It's a freaking MMA fight. So people that like, man, but we had 2 takedowns or 3 takedowns. And I've been that way before.
Well, I was too until I went and I took the course, you know, and got educated.
Yeah.
You know?
Like, I get you. So if the fight,
it's scoring points.
Let's say if nothing happens in the fight, right? The guy doesn't land strikes, but you get the takedowns, then there you go.
Right.
That's the next thing.
Yep.
Right. But if that person's landing strikes on you and you got a bloody nose, but you keep getting takedowns, but you're fucked up and you don't want to be standing, you know, but you've landed 5 to 20 strikes.
Yeah.
You've landed 5 strikes out of that person's 20.
Right. And then also, when it comes down to striking, a lot of things that people don't think about is that it's not always quantity, it's the quality. Yeah. So I can land 20 punches on you, and you can land 5 on me. But if your 5 do damage,
and rock you and make you go stumble,
then you've won that striking exchange.
Yeah.
You know, and when it comes to grappling, effective grappling is looking for fight-ending sequences, whether that is submissions, ground and pound, things like that. Like, so if that isn't happening when you get the takedown and you didn't win the exchange on the feet, you're not going, according to the rules, are not supposed to win that round.
And that's the thing about playing a game, right? Usually people that play the game Monopoly, for instance, you get a good Monopoly player, man, and next thing you're like, shit, dude, like, what the hell? Because they know the rules better than you. They know, all right, I can do this and start adding up, buying this little property. They land on this, boom, and then I'll buy a bigger property, and then boom, and then. So you know the rules better than an opponent you're playing against. You're going to beat them. So it's the same thing with MMA, right? It's like, I know the rules better than you. Skill obviously comes into that. You know, it's not a fucking board game.
Right.
You know? So skill comes into that. But and jiu-jitsu as well, right? You know the rules in IBJJF better than that person does, dude. You can like prevent and do a lot of cool things to help you, right? And that's what you want. You want the rules to be on your side and in your favor. So if you know them and you know how to manipulate them in a way, right? And that's not manipulating, that's just fighting, right? You just fucking strike and you piece her up, don't take damage, don't get hit, you're going to win.
Yeah, and I think it's so important for coaches to know how fights are scored too, because
I agree, man.
That can completely change the outcome of a fight. You know, it's no longer, because, I mean, you'll even see it in the UFC sometimes where they have the corners mic'd up in between rounds and they're like, listen, you know, you won that last round with the takedown when they got a takedown the final 10 seconds. Like that's not necessarily the case. It could be
if it was even on the feet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's you know, it's little things like that, man. And that was something so you know Jimmy Neely. He was one of the head refs in the state and the guy that I kind of mentored me. Yeah. And he would always say in the fighter meeting, you know, it's just as much as your job as a fighter and a coach to know the rules as it is mine. Yeah. And that is so fucking true, man. Yeah. Because that can ultimately, at the end of the day, the fighter might not, and neither should they be, thinking of like, you know, how fights are scored during the fight. It's the coach's job to monitor that. And ultimately, if you're going into the third round, exactly, like, hey, man, listen. You won the first round. Second one's up in the air.
I'm
you
like,
this round.
It could be either way, man.
Right.
It looks like you won it, but they could go it either way.
Yeah, and it makes me smile every single time I hear that in the UFC. You know, somebody be like, "Listen, that last round's a little iffy. Like, you need this one." And even sometimes, I could be watching it, and you know, I could score it, be watching it as like a from a judge's standpoint, right? And like score it how I think it's going to be, which isn't always right. Don't get me wrong. And then, you know, you see the one of the coaches on there be like, yeah, you're losing bad. You know, you have to win this round. Or you've seen it sometimes like, listen, you outstruck them. You've done more damage. Like, just hit and move this round. Yeah. You know, don't do anything stupid.
Yeah, don't do anything stupid. You got this back. Keep fighting your fight.
Right.
You keep doing what you're doing, you're going to win, man.
Yep.
You know, so. But, you know, so it's good for amateurs to kind of know the rules early too, you know. And, you know, she stuck to the game plan because, you know, I mean, I worked with her a lot. She had Bentley working with her a lot.
Yeah, you guys did a lot of wall work in here.
Yep. Yep. So you guys see us on Thursdays for our third down Thursday class. Me and her are doing live goes. Mm-hmm. You know, doing wall work, me trying to close the distance, me trying to take her down. If she can stuff my takedowns, you know, and stuff me trying to push her up against the wall, man, that's a hard task.
Yeah.
Especially as a female and me being a male. So it's like she was more than ready.
And that girl did exactly what you guys thought she would, you know, started shooting right from the get-go.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was cool to see Skylar because, you know, I see her in here all the time, rolling and walking into the back room to do striking.
And, you know, so starting off as an amateur, so many guys are like, I want to fight. It's like, dude, like, what's the rush, dude? Let's ease into this thing. You know what I'm saying? If you want to be serious about this and you want to, like, earn your way and make your way up the rankings to be the best, then you got to, like, slowly progress into this, man. It's like I hear a lot of people tell other fighters, you need to fight as much as possible as an amateur. Yes and no, right? I still want to treat it like it's a professional career because it is. Like, let's say you lose your first 3 amateur MMA fights. Coming back from that, in order to turn pro in South Carolina, you have to have a 75% win percentage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did that change recently?
It might have.
Because I thought at some point all you had to do was have 3 fights or 5 fights or something like that.
Supposed to have 5 fights and at least 3
wins.
At least 3 wins.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I actually like that. I like that. Yeah. Because, you know, especially if you're starting off like you said, man, and you're kind of riding some losses. You know, if you want to be pro, then that's a big commitment.
Yeah, going 3-2 is not like the best thing. Hey, what's up?
Right. But well, I mean, especially because when you're starting off, now correct me if I'm wrong. Well, actually, I'm asking. I'm not even making a statement here, but we know boxing, right?
Yeah.
They're just getting fed cans a lot of the time.
Yep.
Even no matter how promising they look. So is it the same way in MMA? Like,
it's not as bad, but yes, you got definitely several promotions that will feed you people, you know, and we've seen them.
Yeah,
we've seen them. Well, I'm not going to call them out, but there's 2 promotions, and I don't really mess with them anymore. You know, I try not to. So,
And I've noticed that some of the promotions that I would get, gigs reffing or whatever, most of their fights are amateur. And now I know why they do it, because they can't pay the amateur. So they'll have like 1 or 2 pro fights, and then all the money that they make, they pocket and probably give the pro fighters 5 and 5, And I was like, damn, that's pretty genius.
Yeah, because the amateur MMA fight looks almost like a pro fight.
Well, right.
If to an uneducated fan, how often do you see people throwing elbows?
Well, you can't as an amateur.
As an amateur, you can't. Yeah,
Yeah.
but as a pro, you see people all the time, but not as often in a regional show. Not as much. Right. Knees to the head. You can still kick to the head.
Yep.
So they're just missing knees to the head, and they're missing elbows. And so they wear a little bit bigger gloves. 7-ounce glove instead of a 4-ounce glove. But it's
And, with submissions, I think it's the same as, like a new breed when it comes to leg submissions.
Yeah.
As an amateur, you can only do, it's been a while. It's either knee bars or straight ankle locks, maybe, or something like that. But yeah, it's, me personally, I enjoyed reffing the ammys.
Yeah, they're fun, man, because they get after it.
But also,
it's
at the
like
same
2
time,
white belts going after it.
There was a couple times where I reffed. It was their first fight.
Ethan, he's good. After he signs, he's good. Yeah, you don't have to charge him.
Sorry, no, you're fine.
Sorry, guys.
Especially when you see, it's their debut in the ammys. Part of me is like, this is going to be exciting, but. Fuck, there's probably going to be a whole lot of fouls, dude.
Whole lot of fouls.
I'm going to have to be on my
shit.
Kick,
groin shots,
dude.
Man. Dude, there's been several amateur fights. I don't know if you ever heard the door coming flying open because people.
No.
Man, we were at the fights on the 27th, and the cage guy had me taking the pin out, giving it to him, and taking it out because our corner was right there. Instead of him sitting right at the door and he was like hanging out. Hey, will you give me that?
What? I'd be like, no. Do it yourself, bro.
Well, we need to get in the cage. So I'm like,
oh, yeah, true.
Like rushing and trying to like get into the cage, man, so I can give my fighter the stool.
One thing about, going back to the amateur fights and being at their first fight, they almost never made it out of the first round. I knew it was going to be a quick one.
Yeah.
Every time.
At the beginning, the early stages, especially you get 2 kind of untrained fighters, that don't really, or if you get a complete mismatch, you got one guy, he thinks this is what he wants to do, but he's like, he's not sure.
Yeah.
I always tell my amateurs, I'm like, hey, you make that motherfucker over there, you make them want to go back to college. Like, this is the wrong choice.
Right.
This is the wrong choice for you, pal. And that's the way it has to be. It's like, because you try to tiptoe around in this, and you're gonna get hurt, man.
Yeah.
And because especially nowadays, people are so good and getting so good. Let's take Josh, for instance. He doesn't look like anything, and but his first MMA fight was in Virginia, where elbows and knees are legal.
Yeah.
It was a pro MMA fight, but it was amateur, and he's doing flying knees, and I mean, just looking at that point, I was like, this kid's gonna be good. You catch that kid, and he's, you think you're going to be good because you got 6 fights to his 4.
Yeah.
He chokes you,
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. It's weird, man. But people are getting good.
The Academy's been on a roll lately with fighters, amateur and pro. Won all 3.
Yeah. Won all 3.
Was that 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah. April 27th. We had a Muay Thai fight with MMA gloves on.
Yep.
Won a decision with that. Josh won by rear naked choke in the second round. After had to do an armbar in the first round.
Dude,
popping it.
That arm, I can't believe he got out of that.
I can't either. You should have been cage shot, man. I was like, oh my God, we're about to see this thing snap in half.
And the way he threw it on too, like for some reason, I'm thinking back in my head, like while I was watching it, because I was in Pittsburgh watching it, and I thought he's maybe going to go for a triangle.
Yeah,
Or maybe he was going.
He was
for
trying
it.
to go for a triangle, couldn't have set it up, and he left the arm out, and so he just spun around for an arm bar.
Yeah, and it was like at first it was like a belly down arm bar.
Yeah, and he
spun it around, and man, like me and my friend Tim are watching it. We're just like, it was one of those things we want our guy to win, and if he's got to break the arm, do it. But you still feel bad for the other dude, like. And then
kid.
Devon, that motherfucker just looked happy.
Yeah,
he's smiling in there. He got his tongue out, like he's having a good time, bro.
Yeah, and then Skylar had her fight. She fought that girl that was 1-0, and 1-0 and beat her. So that was nice.
It's good. Austin won his last fight.
And he's fighting again June 8th.
Yeah.
So it's
2 days after
May
my
11th,
birthday.
and then we got June 8th in Bethlehem, PA. It's at the Old Sands Casino.
Oh, it's at another casino.
Yeah, it's
Braden's
called
gonna be
something
down for
else.
that.
I think it's definitely got I think it still has a casino in it, but it used to be called the Sands Casino. I don't know what it's
Gotcha.
called now.
Gotcha.
But anyways, man, I got to teach at 10.
Yeah.
So about that time. So
So we need to get with Josh and get him on here. We talk about him so damn much. It's about time that people get to meet him.
Yeah.
But yeah, take us out.
All right, thank you guys. Please like,
Speaking of
comment,
the devil,
share,
there's Skylar.
subscribe. Yeah. Let's get after it. Let's keep sharing. Let's keep subscribing. Let's boost these numbers up. Pump these numbers up. We got rookie numbers.
Pump it
up.
Pump. Who's that? Joe Budden?
Yeah,
That was Joe Budden.
Pump it up.
Showing her age there.
Hey.
What DK said.
Yeah.
Go check out the pod we did with Joe Selecki last time. Kenny Florian. Those are some great pods. Francis Marshall. Rock with us. We'll catch you next time.
Out.